Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today, we're going to be going over another unique item that is going to be added on November 7th, known as the Malignant Rings. This one is Tal Rasha's Iridescent Loop, and this one is for the Sorceress only. Now, this is one of the powers that existed in Season 1, and they didn't bring back all the powers. We're not getting back the Barber Gem, for instance, which was just OP. But we are getting back the Tal Rasha's Iridescent Loop power. Now, these rings will be dropping from Varshan on November 7th after the patch drops, and we don't know for a fact if they're going to drop from Tier 3, but we know they're going to drop from Tier 4, and also they will be dropping in the Seasonal Realm as well as the Eternal Realm. So, pretty cool. Now, this particular ring gives all elements, which all rings now give all resistances. I believe it caps out at 11.5%, if I remember correctly. And on top of that, we also have the resistance to all elements again on this ring as a special effect. So it's going to have two all resistances on it, which is pretty crazy. Although it's a little bit less than the first one. We also get 24% non-physical damage, which does roll between 19 to 26%. And keep in mind that as I'm reading this, this is a non-upgraded item, so you will get a little bit higher than this once you upgrade the items. We have 5% lucky hit chance, which rolls between 3.2 and 6%. And then on top of that, we also get a 12% resource regeneration, 5 to 12%. And then a 5.8% cooldown reduction of 4.2 to 7%. No crit on here, which is something that a lot of characters go for. But, I mean, all in all, it's a very well-crafted ring. No defensive stats, though, and like HP, for instance. But pretty decent little ring. The special effect on this ring, though, seems kind of mind-bogglingly insane. It's for each type of element damage you deal, gain 14 times, it does vary between 10 to 15 as a multiplier. Increase damage for 4 seconds, dealing elemental damage refreshes all bonuses. Now, this is probably something that's going to be pretty easy to maintain. And of course, if you can maintain all three, you're going to get 15% times 3, which is going to be 45 times multiplier. Now, of course, that's obviously not going to multiply your damage by 45 times, but it is a multiplier, which is a very good thing. Additives are not as good as multipliers are. And a 45 times multiplier is pretty nutso. And all you have to do is dish out multiple forms of damage within the same time period, right? So Firebolt is a very common one that a lot of people use for the enchantment effect, which allows you to have the additional burning. And that could be one element type right there, or perhaps you're using Arc Lash or whatever it may be, but you can dish out 2 types of damage relatively quickly with just simply using the enchantment so that you're burning everything. I would assume that the Firebolt's burning enchantment would work, and I think I could show you here. So Firebolt is direct damage from skills, applies up to an additional 2,834 burning damage over 8 seconds. Fire damage, right? So if you were to choose this enchantment, you could get, well, one of the 15% from it relatively easily. Then on top of that, whatever other element you're using besides fire, so if you're using ice or lightning, whichever it may be, you could potentially end up with 2 elements, right? Which is the 30 times. And then if you throw in a third element, if you could mix in something like, let's say you're a lightning sorceress and you're using the enchantment so you can burn things, right? So let's say you're using Arc Lash. Maybe your main skill is Charge Bolts or Chain Lightning, or you're using Ball Lightning. The Ball Lightning build's pretty popular this season. And, and then maybe you're using, say, Frost Nova as your vulnerable. Frost Nova would count as your third element. And so all you would need to do is make sure that you're utilizing all 3 elements, and you would get a very nice multiplier, which is kind of ridiculous. And also, it says dealing elemental damage refreshes all bonuses. So you don't have to spam all 3 elements all the time. You only have to spam all 3 elements once. And then as long as you're spamming any elemental damage, it will refresh it within that 4-second time period, which means that it should be relatively easy to maintain this bonus pretty much bar none. Now, the only downside to this particular ring that I can think of is it's going to take up one of your precious slots here. And these could potentially be, something that you're using to help regenerate resource, mana. Maybe you're utilizing it for another offensive aspect or whatever you're getting. But it's got to outweigh, obviously, whatever you have in that slot, right? Honestly, though, I think this one's kind of insane. And it's going to make Sorceresses pretty OP this season. Let's read the flavor text here. It says, Fool said he dug it out of the sands near Lutgo Lane with a few other worthless trinkets. I hid my delight at receiving such a treasure in exchange for a meager handful of coins. Rakan. And it's a really interestingly crafted ring. I mean, a lot of sorceresses go for cooldown reduction, so I can see that as being a bonus. Resource regeneration, obviously that's also a pretty nice one. Lucky hit chance, a lot of sorceresses I know go for lucky hit chance. And non-physical damage obviously is going to help out the sorceress a lot, because obviously the sorceress is entirely non-physical damage. Cold, lightning, and ice. That's pretty much the entire character. So, and then on top of that, the additional all-res on there is a nice little bonus, too. I mean, I don't really think the Sorceress technically needs as much resistances as a lot of other characters, because obviously she's based on intelligence, and the more intelligence you have, the more res you have. But it could completely negate the need to use any resistance gems in your equipment, and then therefore utilize other items instead, like skulls, perhaps, for some armor. I don't know. I kind of like it. I like it. That's all I gotta say. I like it. I think it's going to be a pretty popular ring. I think a lot of people are going to be using Tal Rasha's Iridescent Loop on their builds. And I think the Ball Lightning Sorceress is going to be even more OP than it was before. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just covering something like the Tal Rasha's Iridescent Loop. And as always, keep watching.